U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Carl Levin has met with Afghan President Hamid Karzai to hammer out a security deal between the two countries in Kabul. In the meeting, Levin told the Afghan president that the U.S. would not provide any further military support until a deal is signed. The two sides also discussed security agreement between Kabul and Washington. The issue over the agreement is related to America's indiscreet drone bombings across Afghanistan, with many innocent civilians being wrongly targeted by U.S. Air Force drones. Karzai and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry earlier this month said the two sides have agreed on the terms of a bilateral security agreement. Meanwhile, reports say the average cost of U.S. troops in Afghanistan will double next year. Based on a new analysis of the Pentagon's budget, the figure would soar to $2.1 million for every U.S. trooper in 2014. This as the cost remained steady at $1.3 million over the past 5 years. Defense officials say the rise is due to the costly deployment of troops and equipment, as well as bringing them back home. Faiz Khurshid is our correspondent. He's with us now live from Kabul. Faiz, let's talk about the security deal and the discussions that have been made around that. We had in our headline story today of U.S. Senator Mr. Levin basically threatening, that's how it's been described, the Afghans over that deal. What are you hearing?
Well, this deal is quite important for the U.S. administration. They have admitted this. Their top military men here in Kabul have repeatedly said that they want to have a long-term military presence in Afghanistan for years to come. And now the Afghan president, Hamid Karzai, is under immense pressure by the Obama's administration as well as by some U.S. lawmakers to sign this deal. Now, this deal will go to the Afghan lawyer Jirga. Preparations have begun for this big meeting here in Kabul. The participants of the Jirga have received their invitations, and they are going to talk about legal immunity over American forces here. But let's not forget that many here in Afghanistan believe that the U.S. presence in this country over the past 12 years has achieved nothing. They say that civilians who are bearing the brunt of violence, the human cost of this war is rapidly rising, the number of civilian casualties is rising, and we don't see a big change in the lives of the Afghan people. Over 50% of the Afghan people are still living below the poverty line. Most of them still sleep empty stomach at night, and it's still a narco state. Helmand in the south still produces about 90% of the world's opium. So many here don't think that the presence of U.S. forces would bring a big change in the lives of the Afghan people or turn the tide of growing unrest here.
So, Faiz, when Levin says, or he's been quoted as telling the Afghan president that the U.S. will not provide any further military support to Afghanistan until a deal is signed, is that something that the Afghan government can afford?
Well, it's not the Afghan government that should afford this war. Let's not forget, Irma, that reportedly this war itself has cost the U.S. about $700 billion so far. It's a big money. It's a big burden, many here believe, on U.S. taxpayers. Now, the question is that what happened to this huge amount of money and what has the U.S. achieved over the past 12 years in this war in Afghanistan? And we understand that people on the streets of Washington want to know this. Some of this money went to U.S. military consultancies, then to the Afghan people. Some of the money has also went to the families of the U.S. wounded soldiers, because the human cost of this war is rising. We understand that 4,000 American soldiers have been killed over the past 12 years, and hundreds and thousands of others have been badly wounded. But now the Afghan people believe that the U.S. aid money has not brought a big change in their lives. There is rampant corruption, we understand, inside the Afghan government as well as in the U.S. military headquarters. That's why the Afghan people are not quite hopeful, and they think that the U.S., if they have military presence in Afghanistan, they wouldn't be able to afford it.
Faiz Khurshid, our correspondent in Kabul, with all the latest there. Faiz, thank you.